All right, what's up, guys? I'm Matt Hall. We got Andrew Romine here. We are doing episode 4 of Ball Talk. Today, we're talking about defensive pre-pitch. Probably one of my favorite topics. This is like the on-deck version of defense. This is where you're mentally going through what you want to do, physically going through what you want to do. We've all got our routines, but there's also certain things that probably should happen during this time. And I always say, like, when you watch guys play and they talk about guys being able to slow the game down, the defensive pre-pitch, that preparation is what allows you to slow the game down when you get a backhand in the hole or something. You've already gone over this in your brain. You know what's going on. So, Romine, I want to know what's your routine defense. Let's say you're playing shortstop. I'm sure it's different everywhere, but you're playing shortstop. What's your pre-pitch routine?
This was huge because a lot of my career was coming in as a defensive replacement. So I had to make sure that every position was covered before the game. I knew exactly what I was doing and how I felt and where my mindset was that day. So I didn't just jump into a game and, we're in the bottom of the ninth and, we got a 1-run lead and they're, hey, go in and play third base and Nelson Cruz is coming up. So I always wanted to make sure that I had my feet ready and my head in the right place. But I always went back. There was 3 things that I always went back to. So there's the walk in, there's a step in, and then there's planted feet. So it might be a little bit different for each person because you know that not everybody, it's kind of like hitting, not everybody's the same. So what I always said was whatever gets your eyes and your feet to the place that you want to be in order to make the quickest move and the best read. So for me, going over the first one, which is most common one, is the walk in, where you're either taking a left or right step and then you get into your hop or your squat or whatever it is. And then you can do a right left step. So I'm not sure what your preference was, whether you were a walk in or a step in, which would be the next thing that we would talk about would be a step in, where it's very similar, but one of your feet is already planted. So let's say you're playing shortstop and you like to just plant your right foot and not move it, get it ready beforehand, and then all you really have to do from there is just walk that left foot in. So, or you could do it vice versa. You could do left foot planted and walk in with the right foot, whatever's more comfortable, because some people like to do the left or the right. And then it takes us to our third one, which is planted feet altogether. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that one, but some people like it. Some people like to know that their feet are where they are. They're not going to move them, and it's more comfortable for them.
I think for me, I did planted feet in one scenario. If I was playing third base and I was in on the grass, I was going planted feet because I knew I probably wasn't going to have a ton of range to my left or right just because I was already in. So I figured if I had planted feet, a ball 1 to 2 steps to my left or right I could get to, or that ball right at me I'd be ready for. But other than that, I would start with my left foot forward, I would step my right foot in, and then I would hop. And the reason why I would hop is because that hop got me balanced. It got my weight right in the middle of my body. It got my legs loaded evenly. So now I could go left, I could go right. I was a walk-in guy early in my high school career, and someone taught me the hop. And I was always really, really good going to my backhand side, but not as good going to my forehand side. But that's because the way I stepped in, I would have more weight on my left foot than I did on my right foot. So as that ball was hit, my weight would be shifted on my left side so I could explode to my right better, but I would have to shift weight to my right to explode to the left. And so the hop got me balanced to where I could go both ways.
That was my next question too, because this is a age-old question that every coach has been discussed, and I've had multiple guys that I work with and dads come up and ask me about hopping in versus not hopping in. And I've had endless discussions with different professional baseball teams and infield coaches, and some die by it and some hate it, whether they hop in or not. For me, I've tried them all. There was nothing wrong with doing any of them as long as it got you to the right place. That was my mindset. But in my career, I found that, and you'll like this, we did in Chicago last year, we set up cameras behind me, and we started filming. It was Green was the bench coach, and we started filming me while people were taking BP, and I was getting my reads off of their bat. And then we took that film, that slow motion footage, and we went into the computer room and we started watching it click by click to see if my jumps were better when I was hopping, and we put them up side by side, or if it was better when I had my feet planted or a walk in. But for me, so the two things that come after the walk in, step in, planted feet start is a hop or a roll to the balls of your feet. Because essentially what you're doing when you hop, you're hopping in, but you're hopping to the inside balls of your feet so that you have something to push off of and you're balanced.
Right.
So I found out, and we did this was actual footage, so we knew for a fact I was better when I was just rolling to the balls of my feet versus jumping in. My jumping timing didn't work.
I was gonna say, when you were landing, were you landing at contact, or were you landing before contact?
My land was
with your
different,
hop?
and I think that's why, because I couldn't time it right every single. Obviously, I hadn't been doing it for years. You know, you did it for years. That was the way you did it. I was trying to hop in, and that was something new for me.
Yeah. Have you ever watched? I'm sure you have. You played with them both.
Yeah.
Pedroia. Have you ever watched his hop? Dude, there was one time I saw with the Red Sox, he literally jumped like 3 feet off the ground and landed. I was like,
but he was a high energy guy though.
I was like,
so,
wow.
So for him,
Real
it was probably a thing that if he didn't have that movement and that jumping, moving around, it was probably worse for him if he didn't do it. So like I said, everybody's different, man. And there's nothing wrong with any of these as long as you get to the place that you want to get to.
And what I found too, and this is really interesting because in baseball, a lot of times it's better to be early than it is late. But I found with my hop, if I was right on time to just slightly late. So when I talk about on time, I mean like as soon as that ball's being hit by the barrel, if I'm either right on time or slightly late, my jumps were much better. If I landed too early, my jumps weren't as good. So like if the pitcher released the ball, I landed, and then contact happened, I couldn't move as well because I was kind of in a stagnant stance. Even though I hopped, I was stagnant, and then I had to react. But if it was like a land and react, I was really, really fast. So my advice, if you're doing the hop, is get it to where you're either right at contact or just slightly late off of contact, because you'll explode better each way. Now, don't be super late because then you won't get to anything, but try to be as close to contact as slightly late as possible.
That's a good point, because the myth that people have is that when you watch slow motion replay of it, you want to be moving as soon as they hit the ball. It's physically impossible to happen. Our eyes don't work that way. We can't move that fast. The ball's going to be off the bat a good 5 to 10 feet before you're even able to comprehend where you need to move. So when you watch back video, if you do the slow motion stuff like I was talking about, don't be too hard on the kids that they're not moving right when the ball's hit.
Yeah, and that comes with time too. The more and more reps you get of reading a ball off the bat, the quicker and quicker your jumps will get. And you'll learn that you'll start to actually read bat path early enough to where you can almost know where the ball's going before contact's even made. But that's that's like thousands of
reps. And another one that comes into play, you can see where the catcher's glove is going. And if the catcher's mitt is moving inside to a hitter, there's a good chance that the hitter's bat's going to be coming in, and they might pull that on the ground, and you're thinking, I might be moving to my right, the right-handed hitter, or vice versa. But touching on what you said about being too early. So something I found that helped on the times when I was a little bit too early and I could feel it was once my feet were planted, it was like a sink into my knees, and not like staying stagnant, getting that feeling of, oh, I'm too early, I'm just stagnant. If you're a little bit early and, maybe it's an off-speed pitch or something weird is happening, you just sink into so there's still that movement, but it's not I have to commit one way or the other movement. It's a sink into an explosive position. And I'm talking sink like an inch, maybe 2 inches. I'm not saying you need to get your feet down and then your head moves a foot down because you're sinking.
Yeah. I see videos online all the time of like kids will almost be down in their fielding position as their prep step. Like they get so low, and I'm like, you're not super athletic from that position. So how are you going to move? So another thing with your prep step is make sure you're staying athletic. And for people who are taller, a lot of times we move better being taller. Now we don't want to keep our legs fully straight, but like Roman's saying, like you get a little bit of that sink, but you're not doing a full squat. You're not getting down into your squatting position, because if you got to take off to your right, you don't want to be super low,
Right.
stand up, and then
Right.
run to your right.
And that's where you're trying to keep your eyes as level as possible when you're doing this, because pretty much everything you're doing in baseball, your eyes are the most important thing. You want to keep them as still as you possibly can. But I wanted to touch on, and this will go for the kids that are moving up to like base runners being on and pickoffs and things like that. So a big issue is you can't do this. All we've been talking about so far is nobody on, or a situation where you're not holding runners. So I want to talk about holding runners at second and how a shortstop or a second baseman is gonna change the way that they're holding and pre-pitching into that.
Yeah, so once I got into college, this is more so at Auburn versus ASU, but at Auburn, a lot of times I would dictate how many times that the pitcher was going to look back at me. So I'd give them like a sign, be like 1 look, 2 look, no looks. And what I would do is I wouldn't move in and out to hold the guy on. I would get basically right behind him so he couldn't get a huge lead. And then I knew that pitcher was going to go 1 look. So after he looked back and looked forward, I would shuffle off. That way I'm shuffling out as he's going to pitch, and I could still cover a lot of range. Now, a lot of times you're not going to give a sign to your pitcher to know how many looks. So as a shortstop, you kind of got to be watching his front foot and seeing when he picks up so you can actually get back into range. And I don't like the whole come in, tap the glove, go back, come over, tap the glove again. I would rather just kind of be right behind that guy so he knows I'm there. And then as the pitch is coming, I'm getting out of there and trying not to give up too much ground.
Right. I was the same way. I'm not a big moving around. And the reason I don't like moving around is because you can get caught off guard. And the difference between getting to a ground ball can be a couple inches. And those couple inches could be because your weight might have been on the wrong foot when he goes to pitch the ball. And you know how hard it is to shift your weight back to the other side, then push off it. So I was always get up close to him, let them know you're right behind them, so they know this is as far as they can get. And I'm evenly distributed between my feet, my weight on the balls and the inside of my feet. And then if I want to pick, I flash that pick. If I want to break back to go to my position, it's a quick shuffle, probably 2 shuffles, 3 if you can get it if it's a high leg kick guy. But you're not crossing your feet over. You're not turning and running back to your position. It's just shuffle back, get to where you can, stay in an athletic position.
And a lot of times, too, it's good to talk with your pitcher. And as I got into pro ball, it's kind of an understanding that if you saw me move away from the runner, that was your key to pitch. Every pitcher's got their own routine. So there's some guys that this works really well with. There's some guys can be like, yo, I'm going to pitch when I want to pitch.
That becomes more prevalent in pro ball, too. Guys you're not messing with pitchers, man. You're not moving around, doing all this stuff. They'll balk.
No.
You know,
yeah, they don't want to see you moving around. They got so much on their mind. They're trying to be so precise with what they're trying to do that the less thought you can take out of their brain by what you're doing back there, the better.
Yeah.
Yes, they will balk really fast.
You can imagine how bad the game turns if you balk a guy over to third. But all right, so another one I wanted to touch on, which is really, really big one, runner on first. And people don't talk about this very much, the pre-pitch on this, because you got a runner on first, and you have to worry about whether or not they're stealing, but you also have to hold your ground in case they don't steal, and they got to pitch, and you got to be where you are. So my first thoughts are, I want my weight on and I'm at shortstop right now. It's going to be the opposite at second. I want my weight on my right foot, the inside of my right foot, so that I'm ready to push off and go to second if he steals. And if he doesn't steal, I just walk in, go into my hop, be ready for the hitter. Or step into my hop or roll to my feet, ready for the hitter. But the important part for me was always making sure that my weight was on my right leg. The theory of having your weight on your left leg, like you're leaning ready to go to second, well, you eventually, if you're going to be breaking to second base, eventually you're going to have to shift your weight to your right foot and push off it.
Yeah. I don't think I ever thought about that in depth. I didn't change my routine when I was covering, but I would make sure that I was close enough to the bag to where it wasn't
Right.
a stretch for me to get there. Now, I didn't want to be too close to where I was giving up a lot of ground, but I wanted to be able to see a swing and miss. Well, there's certain situations, but I want to be able to see a swing and miss and still get to first or just still get to second. Or there were times where maybe I wasn't so worried about me being able to field the ball. If that guy stole, I was just going to cover second base. And if that guy hit a ground ball to shortstop, I tip my cap to him, and they kind of beat us in that situation. But a lot of times, game situation determined that, like where we were at in the game, what the score was, how important that run was.
Where the pitcher
things
or where
like
the
that.
catcher calls the pitch. If he's calling, depending on who's going to be covering for the steal. But all right, so move to third base now, because third base is completely different than the rest of the positions. I got two things at third: playing back, playing in. And the only difference being, obviously, everything else is pretty normal at third when you're doing your walk-in, your step-in, your planted feet, whichever one you choose. But once I got runners on base and I was worried about a steal, I was always more conscious of less movement on my part, less walk-ins, less steps, because you got to wait and find out if he steals. You have to have out of the corner of your eye looking at that guy. And I'm going to have, if I'm at third and I got a runner at second, I'm going to have my left foot slightly open and my right foot kind of pointed at third, and I'm waiting for the pitcher to pick up his leg. And if he picks up his leg and that guy takes off, you just break to third. But if he picks up his leg and he doesn't break, then you just walk right in, go to your toes, balls of your feet, ready for the hitter.
Yep.
Exactly.
You can close it back off and you're ready to go. Third base is tricky. Third base is that's a beast of a position, because now if that guy doesn't steal, but now you got to get ready for Nelson Cruz and he hits a freaking missile at you.
And it gets harder as you get older
good luck.
too. It doesn't get any easier. But the opposite of that would be playing in, and that's when I started playing around with stuff at third base, because you're in past third base and you got to worry about that guy stealing. Now when he steals, you have to run to your left, and now you're also worried about 40 feet or 50 feet away from this guy at home plate who might hit a ball down my throat. So I always tried to open up as much as I could. And I got my right foot pointed towards home. I got my left foot pointed towards second base, and I can scan this whole thing. And it's very similar to what we just covered, where if he breaks for third, then you just go to third. But if he doesn't, you swing that left foot back around, and you're not hopping, you're not doing anything now, because you're right in their face. So you're down, you're low, you're spread out, and you're ready for the hitter.
And you're almost in a position too in that situation to where you're almost giving up the backhand side a little bit, because if that guy smokes the ball down the line, you might not be able to swing all the way over and still get to that. Now you might be able to get to some, but you're shifted a little bit more towards the line. So now you're playing for more balls at you or to your left.
Yeah, exactly. You're taking away that line, like you said. So there's really, if it is a backhand or a diving backhand, it's going to be foul. So I guess the only other position would be first, but it's pretty much the same unless you're holding a guy on, and that's, first baseman, you got your right foot on the base, your left foot somewhere in between home and pitcher or whatever is comfortable for you. Some guys don't like to open up their hips as much, and you're just shuffling off as far as you can, basically, unless it's a lefty and you don't want to get off the line, you might not shuffle off as far. Yeah,
and that shuffle's important. If it's a righty, try to get that big shuffle. Try to cover some range into that hole, because your second baseman's going to be pushed up the middle a little bit too, because he's in double play depth. So you've got quite a bit of range to cover. I would much rather a ball go down the line. I'd rather give up that ball down the line than a ball to my right that maybe I could have got to by the better hop. Because way more balls
on a pitch away and he slaps the ball down the line, we're giving him that because that's going to be the 5% of the time that he we're playing for the 95% where he's going to pull it, roll it over, do something weird, and we want to take away that hole. So.
Right, exactly. So did your pre-pitch at all change when you played the outfield? I didn't play the outfield a ton, but the times I did, I was lost out there. Did yours change?
I didn't feel like it did
much.
So outfield was actually the first position that I learned because my dad played outfield. The biggest thing that I got from him was positioning my feet beforehand based off of the hitter. So if you've got a right-handed hitter, the chances that ball is going to tail to right field is way more likely than a ball is going to topspin tail to left center. Those balls are usually going to drop in front of you anyways because they have topspin. So we're looking at a right-handed hitter hits a ball that flares to the right, to your left, to right field. So you're going to be standing with your feet pointed more, right foot pointed towards home, left foot a little more open towards right field so that you can be ready to go over towards the tailing ball versus the pulled ball. The pulled balls are usually going to have some backspin or something weird, and they're going to take off. They're going to be up in the air.
Yeah. And, and going back to like that positioning, especially for like center field, like knowing on that ball hit over your head, if it's a lefty or righty who hits it, because it's going to have a little bit of fade to it. And that might determine how you prep step and which foot you explode off of to get that ball. You don't want to end up turning over your left shoulder and all of a sudden that ball's fading back over your head and now you've got to reposition and turn, and it happens. But if you know pre-hand that guy's ball is going to fade one direction or not based off of if he's a lefty or righty, you might know now, okay, I need to drop step with that foot versus
the best thing about this, these things can be practiced in BP every single day. Every single day. You don't even have to be out on the field to practice it. It's like being on deck, like you said. You can get practicing by just standing in the outfield or something if you want to, and just watching. Just walk in, do your little hop, or roll to your balls of your feet, read a ball off the bat, take one step.
Yep. One thing that I started doing, I think it was like my sophomore year in high school, but every time we took BP, I would react to every single ball that I could. Now, obviously, I couldn't react to every single pitch because I might be out of position fielding a ball or something. But every time a ball was hit, if I was playing short and that ball was hit into the turtle, like straight up to the right side, I would take 3 hard steps that way. And then I would go replace. I would go restart. Ball hit to center field, I would take 3 hard steps that way. But I would always chase the ball for 3 steps. And it was crazy how quickly my reaction time went through the roof because I was getting tons and tons of reps of doing it. Now, see a lot of guys will be out there messing around with their friends, having a good time. They're not getting those reps in, and there's a time and a place for having a good time.
Keep in mind,
those reps
we watch guys on TV, we go to games, we see the big leaguers. Kids, please keep in mind, they've done 1 million ground balls in their life. They have got to the point where they can take a break during batting practice and not be exhausted today because they got to play a game. They took all of those reps and those practice reps when they were your age. When they were kids, they had to work every single day. So I get it. You want to be like a big leaguer. You want to play like one. You want to act like one. But sometimes it's not the best idea to go and actually practice like a big leaguer. Big leaguers practice different because they've done the work, so they don't have to do as much to prepare for a game.
And they're also playing every single day, so they can't go full out every single rep because their bodies will just, from like a health standpoint or a recovery standpoint, you just can't do it. But when we're practicing twice a week and we got games on the weekend, I can react to every single ball hit or maybe every other ball that's hit. I've got the ability to do that, whereas a big leaguer's not going to do that because they've done it for the past 15, 20 years.
The one thing I will say is when they do work, when you see them working before the game and in BP, watch how they work. There's an intent to the work. It's not just going through the motions. They are out there for a reason, and they're trying to accomplish something. And they might only do 20 reps versus 100, but those 20 reps are perfect. And it's better to do 20 perfect reps than to do 100 and only you know, half of them are good and the other half are bad, and now you're putting bad things into your body and your head, and you just create bad habits. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I feel like
Well, this was good, man.
we're looking at the clock and we're like, oh man, we could keep talking, but we shouldn't, because we're already 26, 27 minutes in. So
Yeah, we always say 15 minutes, but that's not going to happen. We're gonna say
there you go.
15, and we really
As
need
long
30,
as
so.
as long as it's helpful information and we're not just BSing on here. So
Yeah, exactly. We can BS a little bit here and there,
all right,
but
dude. Take
for
us
the most
out, man.
part, educational. All right, well, I appreciate you guys joining, watching. If you're seeing this on YouTube, like, subscribe, follow the channel. Give myself and Roman also a follow here on Instagram. Like the material, comment on that. It helps
if
out a
anybody
ton.
has any topics,
This was
shoot them out, because I mean, we've got
yes.
endless things we can talk about, but we want to talk about the things that you guys want us to talk about. So shoot us some messages. Let us know what you guys want us to cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know. Slide into our DMs a little bit here. Anyways, all right, this is Matt Hall, Andrew Romine, Hall 9 Ball Talk, episode 4. Appreciate you guys showing up. See you next Friday.